Salut Français 2, on est retourné pour apprendre des pluriels irréguliers. We're going to work today with some plurals in French that are a little irregular. So first thing I want you to do is make a list of these words in your notes, and then we have to figure out what they mean. And then later we're going to end up making them plural, so you might want to make some space, maybe if you just go straight down or if you can make a chart, whatever you want to do. So pause the video and write these words down, then we'll talk about what they mean. So starting up we have un animal, ça veut dire an animal. Frais or fraîche means cool or fresh. Un festival is exactly what it looks like, a festival. Un autobus is a bus, sometimes like a city bus, not necessarily a school bus. Un bateau, we remember, is a boat. Beau, we have for handsome or beautiful. Nouveau is our word for new. Un journal, our current vocabulary word, is a newspaper. Un jeu, do you remember jouer au jeu vidéo? That's un jeu. It means game. Un feu, feu is fire, and we have this cool word for fireworks. It's feu d'artifice, artificial fire. The word vieux over here means old, which hopefully you remember. And then amoureux. Amoureux is the word to be in love with. Oh la la. Alright, so we've got those words and we're going to figure out, well, these are not going to follow our normal rule to make something plural. So, check it out. Now, irregular plurals. You're like, why do I care? Blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe you don't. But we do these in English all the time. What's the plural of book? Well, the plural book is books. Okay, that's fine. What do I normally do? I normally would just add an S, and that would make something plural. Alright, but that doesn't apply for all of my words. For example, knife. What does knife become? Knives. Goose becomes geese. The plural of deer is, well, just deer. The plural of mouse is mice. Plural of foot is feet. So how do we know that? Well, there's no real rules. We just kind of have to figure it out. And that's one of the things that makes English so hard to learn for other people. So, what we do have some irregular plurals in French, but it's not nearly as insane as they are in English. Alright, so here are our rules. In French, alright, normally, and we've been doing this for forever, add an S to make a noun or an adjective plural. So if we have a book, we have un livre. If I want to make it plural, I do des for some, and then livre, add the S here. Now, the word ends in an S, it stays the same. So, un fils, a son. Some sons, des fils, I don't change anything here because it already ends in an S. So this is our most basic rule, the first rule we learned when we were making agreement, making things plural, blah, blah, blah. But not all of French words are going to follow this pattern. Alright, the first category are words that end in AL, like cheval, or AIL. And that's going to change to AUX. So we drop the L, we drop the IL. So un cheval, a horse, becomes des chevaux, some horses. Un travail, a work, becomes des travaux, some works. So we can't add an S to these guys that end in L, basically, is the gist of it. We have to change it to an X. Now, here are some others, EAU, EU, OU, anything that ends with some vowel combinations and U. Instead of adding an S, we're going to add an X. So, un château, a castle, becomes des châteaux, some castles. Un feu, a fire, becomes des feux, some fires. Un bijou, which is a piece of jewelry, becomes des bijoux, some pieces of jewelry. So notice here we add X's. We did not add an S to the end of it like we normally would. Now, if it already ends in S or if it already ends in X, it's going to stay the same. So my words like vieux or amoureux, I don't have to worry about making them plural as long as they stay in the masculine form because they already end in an X, which is kind of nice. Speaking of things that stay the same, we have some adjectives that are just totally irregular and they never change. They don't become feminine, they don't become plural, they don't change at all. Some examples of those are orange for orange, marron for brown, super and cool we borrowed from English, super and cool. So that's why they don't change. Sympa because that's an abbreviated form of the word sympathique, that's why that does not change. And the last one, bon marché, means something that's cheap or inexpensive. That does not change at all. The other thing I want you to remember is that de changed to de when you have a plural bangs adjective. I should have put bangs in capitals, but remember those words for beauty, age, goodness, and size. So for example, I have des journaux. See the day here, that means some newspapers, and I just highlighted the fact that journal ends in AL, so it becomes AUX. If I wanted to say some old journals, okay, this is a banked adjective. It has to go in front, and then that day changes to de. So you're going to see that happening. Don't freak out. I just want to point it out to you. So we're back to that very first list. Pause the video and now rewrite them all in the plural form. And they're all going to be irregular. They're all going to do something a little different. Did you pause it? Are you sure? Okay, here we go. Answers. Un animal, an animal, becomes des animaux, some animals. Frais does not have to change. It already ends in S. Un festival, because it ends in AL, changes to AUX. Des festivals, some festivals. Un autobus already ends in an S. Des autobus, it doesn't change. En bateau, EAU, I have to add an X to the end of that. Des bateaux. Notice we don't pronounce it. Beau, you should be used to seeing beau in the plural form as X. Same thing with nouveau. Nouveau ends in an X in the plural form. Un journal, I hinted before, because it ends in AL, it needs to change to AUX. Des journaux. Un jeu, add an X to the end, which, if you remember, jouer aux jeux vidéo, that was how we spelled jeu this whole time. En feu, des feux, just like je, because it ends in EU, I have to add an X. Vieux doesn't change in the plural because it already ends in X, and neither does amoureux. Alright guys, so those are irregular plurals. Not something crazy, but just something you need to be aware of. Excellent et à demain.